Good evening.
Good evening.
Captain.
Missed you guys last week. We had some technical difficulty. We were trying to bring a couple of special guests on, and we're going to work and try to get that done. This week, we've got some really nice weather out. That's first and foremost. We're sitting here with the windows open, and hopefully we don't get sweat out of here tonight. Tonight, really, there's a lot of stuff going on. Dr. Roy came armed with the information about Biden's sudden health issues.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what I'm hoping to talk about mostly today is the fact that Big Pharma and the deep state have lied to us about COVID and vaccines, and especially Biden's health. And why is that important to us sitting around this table? Mostly for me, I started the podcast because I was afraid tyranny was going to start coming at a rapid pace, and not just on the medical front. And when we all knew that Biden was mentally not there, everyone could see it. Everyone could see it. The media denied it. I've got a bunch of clips in here tonight that we're going to share from Megyn Kelly. These clips that I'm bringing are things that I've seen that I think most people maybe didn't see, and I'm just trying to get as much of that together that someone can sit down and listen to us and catch what they need to keep up with what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm going to start off by getting right into a clip, and there's going to be a theme tonight of why we're sitting around this table, why we're not relying on the media, whether it's public media or local television stations. It's just because they don't really give us the news that we need when we need it. Travis brought to my attention today that Dr. Roy, they finally they posted something on a random page saying that mRNA vaccines have been taken off the schedule.
Yeah.
Or COVID mRNA vaccines have been taken off the schedule. We've been screaming about that for I don't know how many months, and how many people,
6 or 8,
how many people locally have since had those things put into them. So the people that didn't hear. So my goal with this whole segment is to understand people need to start paying attention to, me and you aren't going to get everything right in the minute, but we are going to bring these things to people's attention fast.
Right.
We're paying attention to the people that have been saying things for a long time, and even people that have been canceled over time. And one of the, we've been called conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theorists. You're one
medical terrorists.
You're 0 for whatever of
0 for 39.
You've been right on every conspiracy theory you've had.
Theories.
So the first clip I'm going to share here is a very controversial figure, and he's stepped in some things over the years that he really shouldn't have gotten his nose into. But the reason I'm going to bring it up is because you can't ignore people because they get something wrong, no matter how bombastic they are. As soon as you cancel someone, as soon as you stop paying attention, you miss things like this. So to me, the whole campaign against this gentleman named Alex Jones started because he has been very critical of the medical industry for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So I think he was the original target that they all went after, just like make him sound as crazy as he can. And he's very bombastic. But I need everyone to listen to this. This was back in 2009.
Do they call him Mr. Bombastic? Sorry.
They could.
I have to.
This is from 2009. Go ahead and give it the screen.
Yeah.
Trav.
One of those sources has summoned the governor. Alex Jones says he knows how they plan to depopulate.
Alex, you sounded urgent.
There's an entire agenda afoot to force the population to undergo different type of medical treatments, namely vaccines. We're seeing a medical tyranny being set up, not just in the United States, but worldwide under the UN and the World Health Organization.
Who's behind all this?
The Bilderberg Group. They want a planetary dictatorship so they can carry out their forced depopulation agenda, and they want to do it through the medical system. And that's why vaccines are so important. We know that many of these vaccines turn out to have serious adverse reactions, that this is being done by design. They kill you slowly over time. That's why they're called soft kill. And I've got an insider I think you should really talk to, Dr. Rima Labo. But she doesn't live inside the United States because she's so concerned about all the police state developments that are taking place. But if you can get her to come up here and talk to you, she's a medical doctor, she's treated heads of states, and she really understands what's happening on the inside.
Where's the doctor now?
She's in Panama.
Panama, so I got to find her.
You can either go down to Panama and talk to her or somehow get her up here. She doesn't like to come up here, though. Here's her phone number and information in Panama.
All right, I'm going to work on it. Take that.
One of those.
All right.
So that video was a little weird.
Oh, it's old. It's 2009, and this was like true TV.
I don't consider 2009 old.
I don't know. It's pretty old as far as old film. What do you mean weird?
As far as
I mean, it looked like,
technology,
honestly, it looked like it was AI created.
He probably shot it on a phone.
I don't know.
I mean, honestly,
it just looked real choppy and a little wonky.
I can guarantee you, he said this. This is completely up his alley. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's the one that said they're turning the frogs gay, with water supply. So he's at the front edge of this whole medical tyranny push, and he has been for a very, very long time. And I'm not here to toot his horn or anything like that, not trying to get him on the program. I simply wanted to point it out that there are people that are out there that are pointing these things out. And if everyone would have paid attention to him and really focused on what he was saying, maybe we could have prevented what has just happened to us. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I don't think we could have prevented it.
No.
Well, I don't know.
They wanted to kill us all that wouldn't get the stick.
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to get into some more clips of the shaming and all the stuff that went around.
That's what I meant. Yeah, shaming
but back then
couldn't shop without a mask
in
on.
2009 though. They weren't organized.
No, not back then.
You know, social media wasn't as prevalent as it was. They weren't using public shaming nearly the same way. It was a little more of the Wild West, and so it took pharma buying media. It took pharma basically having their finger on social media. They had to have the insider with the government basically saying you can't let Dr. Roy post on Twitter because he's saying things
about ivermectin,
saying things that we don't like. And so, you know, to me, again, the focus needs to be, we need a truth-seeking apparatus, a think tank of doctors that we can go to as soon as something comes down the pipeline. So if we hear something, even if it's kooky from Alex Jones, we need people paying attention to that and vetting those sources and really looking deeper into it. And then we need a team of doctors sitting beside Dr. Roy who can analyze everything that they've seen over their time being medical doctors or scientists or even journalists, and to give us those signals really, really fast. So that's kind of the theme of this first segment that we're going to talk about today. So it's going to take me probably a second here, but I've got a lot of things about vaccine safety. We've already talked about local news channels are finally saying something about the COVID shots not being sold anymore. And so I've got another clip here. Since my boys aren't chatty just yet, I'm going to get them chatty here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently the FDA is not supporting the COVID shot anymore. They're not.
No.
Yeah.
Well, the FDA's got a new boss.
Yeah.
And it's somebody that's on our team. So the next clip I'm going to show here is Dr. Pierre Kory. He's one of the voices that me and Dr. Roy have listened to a lot of his clips over the months and even, I would say, years, going back 2 to 3 years. And this is something probably, I don't know that Dr. Roy has seen this one for the first time, so maybe we'll get some feedback.
If there was one thing you could change, if there was one institution, policy, practice, thing that you've seen in the industry over your career that you would change, what would it be?
I would dismantle the whole vaccine apparatus. I think for several reasons. I think that they're destroying the health of our children and our country. Do you know what it's like for a family to have an autistic kid who's nonverbal? Their entire lives are altered from that moment forth. I have patients who have vaccine-injured autistic kids who are totally dependent on them, even as adults. They know their kids will never leave the house. They need to be home all the time. Caring for someone like that is so destructive to not only the child's lives, the parents' lives, and there's many, many of them out there. That's just one little snippet of the vaccines. And number two, like I said, they're unnecessary. They're built on myths. And the illnesses that are exploding, like this chronic disease epidemic that Bobby talks about, a lot of us talk about, yeah, there's other causes, right? Our food is getting polluted, our food additives, agriculture, pesticides, but vaccines are a huge one. And I know the data. Unvaccinated children are far, far healthier than others. And then, so what would someone scream at me when I say that? They were like, oh, you want a child to die from measles? I'm like, are you kidding me? You know how many kids die from measles? It's extremely rare. They'll tell me if we get rid of the vaccines, it'll come back. Not true. That's not what drove all the measles epidemics in the past. That's number one. Number two, we have really good antivirals. I know of a few more, which you can talk about later on, that I've discovered, but we have ways to treat those illnesses that you just don't need the vaccines. And I just think in terms of health, I am so angry for having been lied to for so long. The books that they write about vaccines are just false. They're false. And remember, the entire legislation in 1985 came about because the vaccine manufacturers threatened to stop manufacturing vaccines. Why? Because, and it's in the act in 1995, because they were deemed unavoidably unsafe. And they could not be liable anymore for all the injuries they were causing. So what happens is Congress gives them immunity. And what do? With that immunity, they explode our schedule, and they're jabbing every kid, and they're weaponizing. They're using legal mandates. You know, kids can't go to school in a lot of states and communities without getting fully vaccinated. And you know how many patients I have, family, like parents, come to me to save their children. And in some states, if they come to me, I tell them, here are your options: homeschool or move. Not everyone's got the disposable cash to do those two things. They're working all day. They can't just decide to homeschool. And but many of them are brought to that decision point because they don't want their kids to get vaccinated. And so I got to tell you, I think that whole vaccine myth needs to be taken down slowly or quickly or somehow. But people need to educate themselves on that. And I include all of the doctors. And I would offer two books. One is Dissolving Illusions by Kathleen Humphreys. And the other one is a masterpiece of an academic work called Turtles All the Way Down, written by 5 anonymous Israeli scientists. And they so expertly go through the entire evidence base for vaccines. And it's a devastating conclusion that we've been lied to around vaccines for so long.
Mic drop.
Dr. Roy?
Yeah, I can't say that I disagree with him at all, given what we now know, based, I don't know, what year was that he was talking about it? Do you know?
Oh, that video there?
Yeah.
That was just, I think it's his, that was yesterday or May 8th, 2025.
Oh, okay. It's absolutely true that, autism is out of control. It used to be 1 out of 200. Now it's like 1 out of 15. And it affects males more than females. But there are some females that are autistic as well. And I just, I feel the same way that Pierre Kory does, so that, we've been lied to all the way through. Now, it's true that measles is a bad disease, or was a bad disease. When I had it back in when I was 5 years old, which would have been
1912.
No, not 1912. It would have been.
That was the first zinger of the afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
That would have been 1955.
Okay.
I was sick, dead sick for like 2 weeks, and unfortunately, I was quarantined in a room out in the garage, I think, and I can't remember that much about it, but my mother came out there a couple of times a day to give me food and to see how I was doing, but otherwise I was by myself. And kids do die from measles, but it's not near as common as people might think. The death rate in measles is about 1 out of 1,000. And
well, I would be really interested to, first of all, know the comorbidities of those kids that passed. Are their vitamin D levels normal?
Vitamin A.
Vitamin A.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have talked about. I'm going to say vitamin D a lot today, just because you and I have talked about it and attributed a lot of early death, the people that died younger than they should or died of COVID, the majority of them have low vitamin D levels.
Yeah.
And so, vitamin D is an essential, and you get that from the sun, you just being outside and away from screens and all that stuff.
Just because the milk that you drink says has vitamin D in it, it's not near enough vitamin D. And if you don't get out in the sun, you don't get vitamin D.
And you said vitamin A, and I think there's a lot more information now coming out that when someone figures out or finds out they have measles, first and foremost, there's early treatment that you can do. But, if we're that concerned about measles, we can also look at preventatives, like why do some people get measles and other people don't get measles, and what can we do to prep our kids or ourselves from getting. We also have talked about the fact that people that have had measles have lower percentage rates of a lot of other things, like some types of cancer and stuff.
That's right.
So we're taking away what our bodies, we're saying our bodies don't know what they're doing. Human nature messed up. So we're taking away the measles, but what else are we bringing in by not allowing the immunity to happen that from that measles germ?
Well, I tested my own blood a few years ago, and I have plenty of antibodies against measles, and that's 60-something years since I had measles. So it confers a lot of immunity to not just measles, but a lot of other things. The whole thing with cancer and turbo cancer is one of the things that I'm disturbed a great deal about, because you didn't see 11-year-old kids getting colon cancer back in the day when I was learning to be a physician. You just didn't see
back
it.
in the 90s, you didn't see it. It's like 20 years ago, you didn't see there's some massive.
There was rare cases you would hear of people showing up on the media that news would show kids, young kids with cancer and whatever.
Okay, 4 out of
just
4 million.
Yeah,
or whatever.
But they would sensationalize them, because it was a big deal. But now there's so many, like they can't sensationalize them anymore because there's too many, and they don't want us to know. Yes.
Well, St. Jude in Memphis has a great cancer program to treat children, but the majority of what they treat are blood diseases or central nervous system diseases. You never hear them say that we had, 8-year-old Susie with colon cancer when they have their commercials on.
No, what's the other? Riley's? Does Riley's do a lot of cancer?
Yeah, Riley's does some, but by far and away, St. Jude's in Memphis is the number one, because they do two things there. They treat children, and they also do experimentation with medications to see which ones actually work.
Yeah, so part of this mission, again, just out of the gate, is obviously Dr. Roy has agreed to sit and talk to me for the last two years and something. This is our 55th episode tonight, so congratulations on that.
55th anniversary.
But what we need is other doctors, because most doctors don't have the time to sit around and watch Channel 14 News,
or they're scared to death that they're going to get fired if they say the wrong thing.
100%. So we are in a quagmire in that regard. But what we have right now, the advantage of this Maha movement coming, under the umbrella of Trump, is we have RFK Jr., who is going hog wild in these. I don't know if you watched any of the hearings or anything that he's been in.
Yeah.
I've got some good clips here. I'm getting ready to share this one, but this is another one, another clip real quick just to talk about, I think it might be childhood vaccines.
What's the role of the Secretary of HHS as far as recommendations of vaccine, and just discuss it a little bit further?
Well, the vaccine recommendations, Senator, are normally made through ACIP, which is the Advisory Committee of Immunization Practices, which is an outside consulting committee at CDC. There's another committee called VRBPAC, which is within FDA, that actually recommends whether the vaccines get licensed or not. And so that's where the recommendations come from. And you know what? Traditionally, they have not done evidence-based medicine. They only adopted evidence-based medicine about 12 years ago. And what we've said during our administration is we want to have safety studies prior to the licensure and recommendation of vaccines. Vaccines are the only medical product that is exempt from pre-licensing safety testing. So the only vaccine that has been tested in a full-blown placebo trial against an inert placebo was the COVID vaccine. The other 76 shots that children in this country receive between birth and 18 years old, none of them have been safety tested in pre-licensing studies against a placebo, which means we don't understand the risk profile for those products, and that's something that I intend to remedy.
That's a really good one. What I'll say specifically to this, just hitting on one of the main vaccines that me and Dr. Roy and Travis have talked about, is the MMR vaccine. And I don't know if I have the clip here. I'm not going to show it straight away. It'll probably come up later. But the question was brought to the table, Dr. Roy, is like, why did they have to put the MMR together? Like, what was the reason? At one point, you thought it was financial or convenience.
It's convenience.
But that's not what there's, I guess, a whistleblower. I don't know if it was on Tucker or something I heard. Basically, what they said is the vaccine makers decided to put it together for a different reason other than convenience. And there was no placebo testing done together.
No.
So it's one thing if the measles vaccine was bad, or the mumps vaccine is bad, or the rubella vaccine is bad, but then you smash all these things together and you really don't have any ability to isolate and say, well, we can study this one measles thing on 10,000 kids and look at them, in the long term, because they're all smashed together. So you don't know what might be causing a problem in any of those things, which I just feel is blatantly not right. He's not disagreeing with me, so he's not going to. No comment.
I'm not going to jump you on that one.
Well, my concern is each one of those vaccines has a certain amount of I don't want to say filler, but of adjuvants. There you go. And when you start throwing all those adjuvants together, then is that not going to get it out of whack of what you should safely?
Do you know?
I'm asking a question. I'm posing a question.
That was not a question.
At the very end, I said, "Is that happening?"
He did.
No,
he did ask. I heard him ask.
Yeah, I didn't hear him ask
because you spoke too quickly.
Well, wait a minute.
You didn't let me finish. Well, you didn't let me finish, and I'm posing a question whether or not the adjuvants go out of whack whenever you combine multiple ones together.
The answer to that is yes, or we don't know. And the thing about it is that you would assume that they would take the plain vaccine for measles, the plain vaccine for mumps, which, by the way, the vaccine for mumps is horrible. It by itself.
You mean just bad on the body, or
yeah, it does.
Unsafe.
It's unsafe already. So they moved down the level of the virus in there, and it's been added to that. Mumps, you don't see mumps anymore, but it was something that all children had to go through back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. And for kids, it was usually a swelling of the parotid salivary glands of the face. But if you're an adult and get mumps, a lot of men became sterile because they got mumps in their testicles, and their testicles would, enlarge the size of a grapefruit. And then once they healed, they were the size of a pea. So they
Good
were,
talk, Doc. Can we change the subject? No, that sounds terrible.
Hey, that's
you got some shrivel going on.
yeah, that's
You been juicing? No, I had the mumps.
no, nope.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, the thing about it is we don't know what they put in the vaccines, because if you look at it, they'll say a small amount of squalene, blah, 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 bunch of other stuff in there, and nobody realizes what those things do. Squalene is nasty, and it does have pro-cancer problems. So anyhow, that's what I think that they've done, is they've just squished it all together because it sells better.
Mm. Yeah, I think there's multiple things going on here. I think we mentioned kind of the Biden situation, and I don't know if you guys have seen the leaked. I might have some clips later here where Biden admitted that he had cancer
Before, and they acted like he was just a guy.
Yeah, so because he was mentally not all there, they're just like, oh, that's just Joe, So either his brain wasn't working right, or he was telling the truth. Either one of those means he shouldn't be sitting in the presidency.
It's a problem.
And he's we don't know how many documents that he signed have been auto-signed. The rumor is that I've heard, the most recent from pretty good sources, is if the pardons were auto-signed, then are they actually legitimate?
Right.
Yeah.
So because all this, Fauci's going to be on the hot seat here pretty quick, I believe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting thing. But the other piece of it is, when did his cancer actually start? Dr. Roy sent me a piece
I've got
about
a
prostate.
nice piece here. It's from Dr. Stephen Quay, who is a pathologist. And pathologists are people who study diseases after the fact, or if a part of your body is removed, they'll analyze if anything's there. Here's what he says. Prostate cancer is the easiest cancer to diagnose when it first starts and to watch it progress to bone metastases. The PSA blood test shows the rate of cancer cell growth. Well, I'm not sure I'm totally in favor of that, because the PSA test that we have now is only good about 90% of the time. So I have seen a lot of people with low PSAs who actually had proven prostate cancer. The other way around, I've seen people with high PSAs, me, for example, and I don't have prostate cancer. But anyway, the next thing he said, for even the most aggressive form, it's a 5 to 7 year journey without treatment before it becomes metastatic. And why would you not treat it? Well, originally when the PSA came out, if a man showed positive PSA and they biopsied his prostate and it was cancerous, they would immediately take out his prostate. And that was a terrible operation. 40% of the men were incontinent, that is, they couldn't control their urine, and at least 70% of them were impotent, so that they couldn't have sex anymore. So finally, back in the 2010s or so, people decided that we're not going to immediately take out the prostate on these. We're going to watch and wait and see what happens. And if it went on further, and if the PSA kept going up and up and up, they would then do the operation. Now, prostate cancer is very, very common. Men who have prostate cancer or who don't have prostate cancer have a likelihood of having prostate cancer about the same as their age. So I'm 75 years old. I have a 75% chance of getting prostate cancer, but I have like a 1 to 2% chance of dying with that prostate cancer. It does not always proceed very high like the one that Biden apparently has. That I like to say a lot of men with prostate cancer die from something else. They die with prostate cancer. So if they watched it for 5 to 7 years, somebody was not paying attention to the PSA, and there are other ways besides just checking the PSA. You can do an ultrasound of the prostate and see how big it is and what's going on in there. And you can biopsy that and look at how aggressive the cancer is. They talk about that as the Gleason score, and the higher the Gleason score, if you biopsy a prostate, the more likely they are to proceed to bones and other things. Now, the Gleason score for Biden was 9, which is almost the highest you can get. 10 is the highest you can get. But I've seen guys with prostate cancer with Gleason scores of 3 or 4, and they died from heart attacks, not from prostate cancer.
Yeah, so the whole point of this segment for me, first, I don't wish Joe Biden ill. I don't want him to have cancer. I didn't want him to be president. I don't think he was a good president. No one deserves to get cancer, and I don't wish anybody that. What I will say, though, is what our media has caused many of the problems that we have going on right now because of their lack of interest in going after important stories. That might be it, or if they are, in fact, simply bought and paid for by pharmaceutical companies and the deep state and, Department of Defense or whoever.
Sure.
The real question is, are they straight propaganda artists, and are they just there are they there for the corporate side of things, just making money through pharma?
Yeah.
And they're just bought and paid for? Or is it something deeper and more sinister than that? Here's the conspiracy theory of the day. Joe Biden was not making decisions about the border.
Right.
Joe Biden believed that the border was secure. He was surprised whenever he heard that. He was caught off guard and surprised. There's no way that you could lie about that. It was blatantly obvious by the huge amount of numbers that were just piling over the border. And yet they had needed someone so incompetent and unable to see it with his own 2 eyes that they just wanted to ignore it. And we can talk about why they were doing that. But the reality of it is, we finally have independent journalists. We have people that are out there calling people out. And this next clip from Megyn Kelly is her calling out Jake Tapper, who basically followed around Biden for a couple years and was very complacent. So I'm going to play this clip here.
Years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seemed to be running cover for the president. You didn't seem interested.
That's true.
Well, I mean, we'll start with the Laura Trump issue that you referred. Here it is. This happened in 2020.
Joe Biden, as we all know, has worked to overcome a stutter. How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You are
to
no
watch somebody on stage search for
this is so
questions.
amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you
stuttering.
were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel sorry for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern.
I got something to say right here.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to apologize to Lara Trump now?
You want to wait? Do you want to?
No, I want to hit that one.
Okay,
right
well,
there.
he's going to come back, but go ahead.
Okay. I've seen. I remember when Joe Biden was a senator, and I've seen many things where he was going after things when he was a senator, and he never ever once stuttered.
Yeah, I've never seen him stutter.
He had a lot of gaffes. He said a lot of crazy things, but he never stuttered.
That's right. He never stuttered. And, I have two grown stepsons, who have stuttered all their lives, and it's very, very difficult for them. Mm-hmm. And we, will help them all they can. But they've come forward and had good careers so far. But I know what stuttering sounds like, and I never heard Joe Biden stutter. Now, if somebody out there wants to show me a clip from 1981, go right ahead, and I'll say that I was wrong.
Well, I think if they could have done that, they would have done that.
Right.
And then Jake would have had a come back to her in this, but she nails him to the cross.
Yeah.
It's pretty fantastic. Let's go for it.
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but I thought the conversation went well. And she has said this publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were, I called Lara Trump and I said, you were right.
She was totally right. That's the thing, because when I watched that clip, and I'm giving voice to what a lot of people watching the show are feeling, Jake, I feel angry because she was right. And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was totally right. And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length, including on page 4 of your book. You describe at length his cognitive decline, which is all she tried to do with you. But you had such a visceral reaction to her. And my feeling is that's because you didn't want to hear it. You covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity.
Yeah. So this is absolutely essential. These types of call-outs of these people that have been put in front of us. And Jake Tapper to me is just a plant of some sort. I guess he gets rating. I don't know if he gets ratings or not, or if he just is a willing. I mean, he's fairly well spoken. He's a decent looking guy. But once you've Dr. Roy, once you've been proven to be a liar, I mean, he's just a flat out liar.
Sure,
he's a flat out liar. If I don't care how much money you can be paid, if you're paid to lie, you're still a liar.
Yeah.
The propagandist is a liar. He's a liar. He should not be. Who should buy his book? I mean, what do you want to listen to? Read that book for?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand it.
Totally lied.
Travis, you got anything juicy to say over there?
Liar. No, I really don't. I mean, but that happened a lot the past 4 years during Joe Biden's presidency. There were a lot of things that we were all seeing and knew what we were seeing, and we're talking about it, and we were all being told that we have no place to try to say that that's what's happening. There's no way that that's not happening, and he's got a stutter. I don't know, but it just same with COVID. We all knew it was awful, and we were all told that we were terrible for knowing that it was awful.
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest part is we have to not just forget that this happened. We need to talk about it, and we need to work through it, because when the next thing comes down the line, I mean, we're saying that we're going after woke culture, the cancel culture, all these different things, but is anybody really that we know sitting around and talking about it. I don't think there's real discussions that go on like this where you're sitting around the dinner table like, man, what are we going to do next time somebody, if we know something's wrong and you see it happen, are you just going to bite your tongue? Or are you going to what does it take to get people enough courage to come out of their shell and actually stand up when they know something's not right?
So my view with that would be it depends on who's running the government.
Yeah.
Because if we stood up to it in 2020, 2021, whatever, we would have been people were arrested. People were vilified. People got physically attacked by other people if they wouldn't get the jab or if they said that it was not right or, you shouldn't do it and that was due to, I think, that the government was controlled by the Democratic Party. So now if something happened where it's the same way and it's the Republican Party, I don't know. Even then, I guess it would still just be bad. It depends if the government's going if the government's going with the problem, then it's really hard for anybody to stand up. I guess regardless of who's running the government.
I'm going to go one deeper than you. I will not blame solely the Democratic Party. I believe in some of these clips that we're going to share tonight. It is the bigger party. It's the uniparty, the people
above the government.
They act like they're arguing. I mean,
sure.
Secretly, these people are going out to dinner with each other. They'll argue each other. I don't think RFK is going to dinner with anybody.
No.
But in years past, they would get up and it's a show. Yeah. It's a smoke and mirror show. They're making it sound like we really hate
WWF.
I can't believe this person is pro-life. I can't believe this person is pro-abortion, and they don't care. I mean, they're just trying to get votes. They're trying to keep people distracted and angered and divided on these things. And
it's like in The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's exactly right. And all the while here in why, again, these conversations are important and our First Amendment is so important. There's a clip here I'm getting ready to share that's, I think, very relevant. And we've been told to fear Russia and how bad of a person Putin is, and our NATO allies, the UK, France, and all these different countries are better because we're part of NATO, and Putin and Russia are the bad guys. And I'm not saying they're the good guys, but this is a really interesting clip. I just want people to really soak in and hear what's going on.
Russia last year, 400 people were arrested for things that they said on social media. How many people do you think were arrested in Britain for things they said on social media last year? 3,300.
Really? Arrested for what they'd said on social media?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really? What sort of things get you arrested?
Well, one example I give in my show is there was a young woman from Liverpool called Chelsea Russell, and people can look this up. Her friend was killed in a car crash, a 19-year-old woman, and she posted the lyrics of his favorite song on her Instagram, the lyrics. And there was a rap song, so the lyrics contained several instances of the N-word. Okay? She was arrested, prosecuted, found guilty, given 500 hours of community service and a fine, tagged, and for a year she was under 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. curfew.
My goodness.
In Britain.
In Britain.
In 2018.
So we talk about the Chinese system of social credits.
Right.
And describe it as the creation of, or the emerging of a digital prison. But we're doing it to ourselves voluntarily in the West, so to speak.
Absolutely. I mean,
so we'll cancel people socially if they say the wrong thing on social media. But you're telling me now that 3,500 people were visited by the police.
No, far more were visited by the police. Far more.
So, word of warning. That can never happen in the United States.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, Dr. Roy, I believe you were caught. I mean, we've had YouTube videos taken down. We've been censored. I mean, you were deplatformed from at least Twitter.
Yeah.
Based on things that you were saying.
Well, I didn't have a Facebook page at that time, so it was just Twitter. And interestingly enough, I was kicked off of Twitter on January 8th of 2021. Now, that was 2 days after the January 6th debacle. And I was kicked off with 75,000 others who were almost all Trump people. So, and Trump himself was kicked off.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah.
That was, and that whole thing that's a whole nother story we're not going to get into today. But if you're not paying attention to the stuff going on with the FBI, CIA, and the J6 things, I don't have any clips prepped for today. January 6th is not what we were told it was.
Not at all.
And I don't want to get into it because all the facts are going to come out. I don't think it really helps us at this moment in time to really to get in there. But if you're interested in that story, and if you truly believe that there was an insurrection and that Trump was at the head of it, you're going to learn something different whether you want to or not at some point. The moral of it for this particular part of our conversation is, to me, we have to be able to say things that are offensive.
Yeah.
We need to be able to make claims that we're using our brain, something doesn't seem right, we need to call it out.
Yeah.
We need to be able to talk about it. And if it turns out I'm wrong about something or Travis is wrong, well, his face isn't out here, so nobody would know if he's walking down the street. But, people are going to say, man, that was really stupid, Chad. And I'll wear my I was wrong shirt.
Yeah.
Part of it is I love the civil discourse. I love passionately debating things. And I want somebody to tell me I'm wrong, and I want them to back it up and prove it. Not just say, well, the media told me. And there's a study out there. I mean, that's where the only friction you and I ever had is, you can look at studies, but then the more you learn about what the studies are actually showing or not showing and what they're doing and not doing and where the money's coming from, then even you are like, I don't know if I can really believe all that. I got to maybe listen to it again. So, we want to open the eyes of doctors here, but I also want people reading, listening to us to know when these things start happening around us again, we need people standing up and not being censored.
No, I had people
silenced. I'm sorry.
What?
No, I don't want them being silenced. They might get censored, but they need to stand up and talk about it anyway.
I had a couple of trolls when I first got on Facebook that were always pulling something up and saying, "See, the people in Baltimore say that it's not true." Well, they're wrong, and they won't admit that, or they're being paid by somebody. Remember, there's hush money for shutting up, and there's push money for saying things
absolutely
that are probably not correct. And it's all following the money. And that's why a lot of physicians are afraid to speak out even now, because they have golden duct tape across their mouths and they have golden handcuffs. If you step out of line, you're going to lose your job.
Yeah, they got hopefully nice homes and a family and medical school loans. And, they're at the behest of their supervisors and the people in the organizations above them, which is never good. So I found this next clip really interesting from a psychology standpoint. Back when me and my buddy David really sat down after the COVID lockdowns happened.
Before he became
the goose on the wall.
Yeah.
We talked about kind of three different categories of people. And, you got people, I don't want to say left or right as in ideology that they're Democrat or Republican, but you have people that are super passionate about a particular topic or ideology. You got people that are the exact opposite. And then you got kind of the people in the middle that don't really have an opinion on it, but they'll kind of go to who's the loudest. I mean, they'll kind of just like, well, I don't want to cause any trouble, so I'm going to just go with the flow here. And I think a lot of the thing that we got into with COVID and the cancel stuff and people being, forced into vaccines were human, our human behavior and the way we're dispositioned is exactly that. Some people are just going to fall in line. And when you fall in line and the idea is super bad, which the mRNA jabs are turning out to be, then you're doing harm to yourself. But not only that, but you're pressuring people around you and even your own family to do things. And I hope we can learn a lesson from this. And this clip kind of spotlights that. And I'll let whichever one of you want to talk about it after.
Earlier. Well, okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in an earlier episode, we've even shown clips where that, the woman, every time the bell would ding, she had to stand up.
Yeah.
She didn't know why. Like everybody else stood up, and she was kind of watching.
Social conditioning.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of I think what you're talking about.
She didn't know why she did it.
Had no idea, and then told somebody else later that that's what you do.
And even the skeptic, the guy that came in and he's like, I'm never going to do that. And he's like looking at her like she's weird. He ended up doing it too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting behavior.
Psychology.
By far the largest that just want to forget COVID. They just want to move on.
The Senator Ron Johnson.
Harmed or whether they caused harm. If they caused harm, they just want to be forgiven. And they just want to forget all this. Then there's a group, I would say you're in that group, I'm in that group. Our eyes were opened during COVID. And then, of course, the third group are the COVID cartel. The people that imposed all this on us. And again, they have the power. They've controlled the narrative. They call the truth misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Those of us with our eyes opened, the good news is once our eyes are opened, you can't close them. And so you become dedicated to doing what we need to do, which is open up more people's eyes. But we have a long way to go because so many people are just in this enormous state of denial. They deny vaccine injuries because they took the vaccine, that they don't want to think there's maybe a ticking time bomb in their body. The people that push the vaccines, they don't want to admit that maybe they pushed a vaccine that might have killed somebody or did them irreparable harm. So again, we've got an enormous challenge dealing with this global state of denial. They're basically...
Anybody got something to say about that one?
Which senator was that?
Senator Ron Johnson.
Ron Johnson? Okay.
Yeah, he's been a very outspoken, I would say he's more pro-Trump. He's definitely one of the, I don't like a lot of Republicans, but he is a Republican that I think his heart is in the right place. He's got some scruples. He doesn't seem to be led by the money first, which I can't say about a lot of the Republicans or Democrats or any of the other ones for that matter. Nothing?
Yeah, no.
Nothing else.
Jeez. He said it so nicely that...
he tied it up with a bow.
Well, that's
I mean, Global State of Denial could be our first album title, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I feel, you know. I got canceled, you know, on Twitter, and I got bullied into doing some things that I didn't really want to do. Mm-hmm. For example, taking the COVID shots myself and having my employees take the COVID shots. They said, you either do it or you can't send your patients here anymore.
You know, I hate that COVID happened, but it also, you know, because of it, a lot more people are seeing the man behind the curtain, as you would say. But I think a lot of people are now realizing, even people who were yelling at people for not having masks on at Walmart or whatever, I think they're even seeing that, well, we were wrong. We kind of screwed up. I mean, they may not admit it, but I think a lot of people got their eyes opened in this whole situation, and that might be a help for the future. But during the time, it was awful.
Well, I mean, I know we sitting here as a threesome at the table didn't have any power in telling them to stop the mRNA stuff. But we were certainly barking loud.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we can all hopefully look back at that with some pride and with some like, hey, we got one right. Again, who did we influence? Maybe we influenced. If I influence one person to question it, not to not do it. I'm not saying don't. What I'm saying is do the research. Listen to what RFK is saying. If you've just had a child, if it's me, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not a doctor. But if I had a child today, I would not vaccinate the child on the first day. Right? I just wouldn't do it. You and I have had pretty robust debates. I don't know where we've come down, you know, with the hepatitis thing. I know where I'm at, and I'm more on the Rand Paul side. He's like, we waited a year. We got the hepatitis B shot. I knew my wife didn't have any things. She had the test. Is there some risk of contamination still? Sure there is.
Yeah.
But you're still putting something in your child that is definitely a risk, whereas you're rolling the dice, you know, on the other side. So to me, you have to be able to use that consent, that informed information, and say, here's what we're going to decide for us and for our child.
Right. Once they started immunizing children at birth for hepatitis B, the number of hepatitis B cases in children went down by 99%. But we don't know what damage might have been done to the ones.
Well, I love what you just said there is perfect. Like, man, it went down. That's great. But there's that but there that we don't really know.
We don't know how many of those kids turned out to be autistic.
Right. Or some other kind of injury. Travis, you sound like you got something.
No, I was just clearing my throat. I mean, I'm glad that you and our kids have somewhat dodged the bullet. I know my child has 4 more years before she's supposed to get her next vaccine, and I'm definitely going to question it. And I'm definitely going to want information. And unfortunately, when she had her first few years there, I trusted it all. I really did. This was she was born in 2018, and
we've been indoctrinated to trust it.
Well, I know. I don't.
And the same thing happened to me when the vaccines came out. I was recommending them to all my patients, and some took it and some didn't.
Well, you've trusted your chain of command and the information that comes down the pipeline for 50 years. Yeah. I know you're a proud guy, and you're definitely you're not arrogant in any way. But no, you're really not.
You don't know me well enough.
I mean, you've got a chip on your shoulder. You're a successful guy. You've done a lot. You've accomplished. I mean, you're a great doctor. So, but even I've seen you struggle in some of it along the way, and I've seen you grow through it even after 50 years of practice. And you're like, you have to still recognize and question the science. I mean,
things change.
It's if the vaccine schedule was right 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we've evolved. I mean, everything is changing all the time.
And the vaccines that were put in the children 20 years ago are not the same vaccines that are being put in the kids now.
Yeah, because they're mixing them all together. And are they mRNA? Are they not mRNA? I mean, that's the big question I would have. If I were in your seat, I'd be like, I need to know that there's no mRNA in anything that could potentially get put into my child.
Definitely.
Ever. And we could talk about the vaccine side of it and what else might be in the vaccine and aluminum and adjuvants and all the different things that could be in it. I'm with you there, though. So hopefully we have solved the problem before that.
Hopefully,
if we're still having this conversation in 4 years, we haven't done a very good job of getting more.
No.
Hopefully Bobby will figure it out or something.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Well, I think they've done a great deal to back that down out of children, the mRNA shots for kids. And they're going to do an awful lot more. Because I think the guy who's head of the FDA is ready and waiting to do that.
I'm just concerned what'll happen in 3.5 years.
Well, what has been created in 3.5 years, you're going to have a vaccine hesitancy like no other.
I hope so.
And so there's either going to be, and we're not even really talking about AI and how that's going to affect schools and how schools are organized and all that. But I mean, if it becomes easier and easier to homeschool because AI and personal teaching, applications are able to help kids advance, and I think the typical school is going to have to be changed. Drastically. We've gone a little bit off curve.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm just going to chime in a little bit because I'm going to talk just for a moment about what we talked about before we were started recording. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. Yeah,
tequila.
Is it a gay frog?
Tequila.
No, I don't think he had been tested on yet. But not only the AI and being able to really create curriculum individually for everybody, but I've started looking a little deeper, like I told you before, about virtual reality and some VR systems. And if you start to partner those together, you're going to have a really powerful tool to use for that, I think. I mean, because you've got virtual classrooms, there's a really good program that you can actually buy now to learn languages, and it puts you in actual scenarios, and it's interactive, and you can
that's the best way to
learn. Yeah, and it's in a virtual environment.
Immersion.
Yeah, so it feels like you're in Paris and you're learning French at the baguette store. I don't know what, but whatever. And that's just now. So once the AI really starts to take over, once the technology really catches up, once you get more of this virtual reality, like the MetaQuest 3 and stuff, like I was talking to you about, I think you're going to have just a crazy ability to have everything at your fingertips even more than we do now.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of harms. There's a lot of things we need to talk about in that and really dig in deep about the real risks. I mean, we could do
there's risks too.
We could do AI podcast every week, just talking about the changes that are coming, the blind spots, the problems that are going to start rapidly arising. I mean, you and I have already went down that hole quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think the AI medical advances are definitely. Me and Dr. Roy, we talked about it a couple podcasts ago about just being able to put your chart into a large language model and compare it to 10,000 or 100,000 other people, and basically, here's the best path for you, and this is the best outcome, and it's just going to, and Dr. Roy is like, I don't know if his particular, angle of practice is going to be the same as, are you going to be, how are you going to help diagnose with AI? I mean,
I'm still pretty good at diagnosing things.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But
nobody's questioning that.
No, the thing about AI is that they typically take the worst thing and say, if you have a headache, you got a brain tumor. Mm-hmm. And that's not correct. Do you know how many brain tumors occur in people who present with headaches?
You put me on the spot here. I'll say less than 0.1%.
It's a whole lot less.
Okay.
1 out of 1,300 will have a brain tumor.
But what about an aneurysm? How you think that's a little more often with
aneurysms?
Headaches?
Really don't present as headaches.
Oh. Okay.
What they do is they burst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my father had that happen when he was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
It burst while he was in school, and he was unconscious, and he was actually dead for a little while.
Yeah.
He always likes to blame that for me. He said I lost oxygen. My swimmers were a little handicapped, and I made you. That's what he likes to say. But no, that really did happen, aneurysm, and I don't know if he had headaches or anything leading up to it, but yeah, those can be pretty scary. And that's the only reason why I asked that question is because it's happened to him.
Sure.
But yeah,
I'm trying to think of I had a movie pop into my head whenever you said that. It was a John Cusack, who I think is a kooky liberal, but man, what was it? High Fidelity, I think.
Oh, yeah.
He's talking to his mom on on the telephone, and she's reading the riot act because he'd lost his girlfriend or whatever, and his mom was just, I can't believe you lost another girl, blah 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 blah. This is all your fault. And he's like, damn, Mom, that's some cold shit.
Was that Serendipity, maybe?
Or
was it High Fidelity?
Yeah.
I thought he was on the phone.
I can't recall. It's one of the
two. He was on the phone in the studio or in his office inside of High Fidelity in the
record store. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
I think so.
Then it would be High Fidelity. Great movie.
Rabbit Hole. It was a very good movie.
It's
before he went way kooky. But anyway, I got one more clip kind of on this track that I'm going to share. I think for you all not watching, I believe this gentleman on the left is the Senate House Majority Leader, who I don't really care for that much, but this is a pretty good clip. I think that everyone should hear.
I'm amazed you could hear that. You have time for one or two more? Yeah, sure. Yes, ma'am. Front row. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My daughter was a 29-year-old nurse who was killed by the Pfizer vaccine.
Oh, boy.
And I talk to vaccine-injured people every day. They're being ignored. They are hurting. They aren't getting disability. They aren't getting help from anybody. What are we going to do about this?
I'm so sorry. Y'all couldn't hear that back here, but her daughter is 29, passed away as a complication of the Pfizer vaccine. Is that right? The COVID vaccine? It is an issue around the country, and it hasn't been given the due attention that it needs. We'll have some hearings in the new Congress about that to figure out who's responsible and why.
Fauci.
Was there adequate warning and all the rest? It's affected a lot of families around the country. So I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So sorry.
I'm a pharmacist. Yeah. I saw the warnings.
Yeah.
They were out there. I was censored.
You were censored?
I was censored on social media, and my daughter died because of it.
Well, she says that some of the warnings were out there, and she tried to share it, and she was censored on social media. That is not a conspiracy theory. That actually happened. You know it did. In fact, there was a big court case that came out on July 4th, not this year, but previous year, 143 pages. The Western District of Louisiana, a federal court looked at all the evidence, and they said that the White House, the Biden-Harris White House, were working with the big tech platforms in Silicon Valley, meeting with them almost weekly through the FBI field office out there, a guy named Elvis Chan. You can Google this, okay? Well, maybe not Google. You can find it elsewhere. But they censored and silenced different viewpoints on the COVID vaccine, the dangers of it, and all that. It's all detailed in this long court opinion.
Zuckerberg
he said the
fessed up
censorship
to
was
it.
so great that it was dystopian in its scope. It was like it's some sort of. He said it was the greatest violation of free speech in the history of the First Amendment. Okay, so that's real. It really did happen, and real people suffered because of it. We've got to make sure that people who appreciate and are willing to give their lives to protect our freedoms and the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and all of all of our fundamental freedoms. Those are the people in charge of these decisions, not the big state government elitist. And that's what happened, and that's the problem. And people literally died because of it. And I'm so sorry for your loss. So this guy will fight for those freedoms every single day. You know that. I promise you that. Yes, sir, over here.
All right. I don't like him that much. I can't. Yeah. His name is escaping me. He was sitting behind Trump during the State of the Union.
He's the
I can't think of his name.
Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and he's from Louisiana.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I the people that have been forgotten, and that haven't been reimbursed. I mean, so many people are vaccine injured and were even shamed into not talking about it. My wife being one of them. You were forced into it, and it's. Yeah. I don't know how that will ever be made right. But just damn sure make sure that it doesn't happen again. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Mm-hmm. Preach on, brother.
Preach on. Preach on. All right. So I feel like we've kind of beat this thing over the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. Let me see here.
You want to talk about Gold Dome?
What? Gold Dome.
Gold Dome.
You mean
you don't know about that?
The thing that they're going to put? Oh, the missile protection.
Missile protection. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the Iron Dome.
Oh. No, Iron Dome is
that's in Israel.
That's in Israel.
So they're calling because Trump, they're calling it the Gold Dome.
Trump called it the Gold Dome.
That's funny.
And
talk about it.
He's planning on
missile defense,
putting missile defense over the United States that will be able to immediately track any takeoffs and hone in on those and destroy them out over the oceans before they ever hit the U.S.
Mm.
And it's not like, Reagan's Star Wars thing. It's real. And
I mean, don't we already have some type of air protection?
We do.
Okay.
We just don't have them deployed like they should be.
My concern would be the people coming in to the north or the south. And I'm not saying Canadians or Mexicans. I'm saying people coming into those countries with some type of devices would be a concern of mine.
Drones are the biggest.
Not necessarily drones, because I mean drones are not going to be able to hold enough. I mean, they are enough explosive to kill a person or a few people, but I mean, large, ICBMs and things of that nature. That
Well,
I don't
the Chinese can park a submarine 35 miles off our coast and shoot nuclear missiles right into Colorado or Nebraska.
So would this Gold Dome be able to intercept those that are that close, I guess is my question.
The answer is yes.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, that's pretty fantastic.
I've always said that I think that if somebody wants to take down the United States, all they have to do is go after the electric grid. I don't know that it has to be nuclear missiles or anything. I think very easy.
That's why I have a generator at my house now.
Yeah.
Because
that won't get you the internet that's shut down, and it won't get you
internet
information.
Might be shut down, but you'll
have lights and you'll have
have
power.
lights and refrigeration, and we can run the dryer.
But communications will be down. I guess
communications will be down. A lot of gas stations.
Well,
will be down.
the radios that we need to buy are.
Me and Travi have some.
Yeah, that's my next purchase, I think.
Yeah, just kind of look at those closely, because the ones that use the cell tower systems, I don't know that I could rely on those.
No, these are no kidding stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. In unrelated news, since we've gone off track a little bit, were you guys watching Bitcoin today?
Yeah, it went up to 109.
109, 675.
Yep.
No, but if you want to get real crazy, I just got a push.
What's that?
Jim Irsay, Colts owner.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away today.
Oh, man.
He was only 65.
Wow.
Ah.
Anyway, I just got pushed that 7 minutes ago. And
Vaccination status. That's the
unknown
first
at the
thing you
moment.
need to know.
Well, strangely and unrelated, I'm going to give a shout out to two very close local family members. Within the last 24 hours, I've had two people that I know very well pass away.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so a long-term neighbor farmer who has, every time I saw him, he was a quirky dude, funny dude. Always made you feel special. It was like he would go out of his way to like do something funny. I mean, he was just a crazy character. He passed away last night, and then my cousin's husband's dad passed away last night as well. I mean, and they live like less than a mile from each other, so kind of all right around where I grew up. So I'm gonna send my thoughts and prayers to that family.
Cousin B, is it?
Huh?
The one that I know. Your cousin?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. It's on that side of the family, but
yeah,
it's
not
blood related to the
yeah.
to the gentleman who passed. But we did have dinner with him last year. He's a very, very nice guy. So real sorry about that. Okay, so what I think maybe might, I kind of was prepping for the conversation, sitting down with Kristen and her husband.
Yeah.
And so I actually still have a few more clips that I want to talk about the vaccine injuries and gaslighting, because I want to clean out some of these clips that I have, and I think they're really, really good ones. And they're people that I think people, if you want to pay attention and listen to these guys, this Del Bigtree is, he's lighting people up, and I really love his no nonsense way. You know, AI is, we talk about AI a lot and how smart it's becoming, and AI is really learning that I like seeing stuff like this. I like guys that are, outspoken and calling people out, and this dude does about as good a job as any that I've ever heard.
Thing that could maybe contribute to autism, which, as has been pointed out, has gone from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 36. It's more prevalent in boys, so we're talking now 1 in 22 to 1 in 18 boys. Why aren't you writing about this? Is this not an epidemic of disastrous proportions? Is it that hard to understand the science? Do you have to have a medical degree to say that a brain swelling event that is written in the side effects here couldn't possibly lead to a neurological disorder? Certainly you're all smarter than that. But you are the ones that have been gaslighting hundreds of thousands of parents that witnessed with their own eyes vaccine injury. You were the reason no doctor ever learns how to fix vaccine injury. We know how to handle a drug overdose because we can talk about that. And the doctors that do investigate how to possibly reverse transverse myelitis or Guillain-Barré syndrome the moment it's happening, a brain swelling event, you were ridiculing them. You were supporting a medical establishment that attacks that doctor for daring to say vaccines cause injury. You were a part of the greatest lie any modern society has ever told. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? Do you really believe? Is there something in you that has you saying vaccines, that he's wrong? Vaccines don't cause injury. You're only going to sit in two places. Either it's real, but it's rare, and I don't care about those babies. They don't matter. The greater good is all that matters. Or you're going to live in a completely blind place, which is it doesn't matter that's written on every single one of these things. I believe somehow the pharmaceutical industry has made a product that has no side effects. Good luck with that. The world just changed today. Now you'll have to decide whether you want to report on real science, because that is what you are about to see.
I think that's it. That dude's fantastic.
I wish I had a view of like who he was talking to in their faces while he's calling them all out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back on anybody. Is that the same one? It might be the same one. I don't want to show the same clip. The same guy. I mean, again, watch him. If you watch one of his videos I think that was on Facebook. He'll start popping up. So he does another clip here on day one Hep 1 vaccines. Dr. Royd, have you heard that? Are you interested in hearing that?
Hep 1 what?
Day one Hep 1 Hep B vaccines.
Yeah, go ahead and play that one.
Okay.
We'll see.
See what you have to say about it. Sorry, to Facebook, it makes me jump through a bunch of hoops here.
You can do it.
I'm getting there. Gotta hit 14 things to get it to cover.
The highest first day
This
infant
is
mortality of
Big
the
Tree again.
industrialized world. In fact, it was reported
March 8th, 2025.
50% more babies die on the first day of life than every other industrialized nation combined. This is a vaccine for a sexually transmitted disease you only catch if you are sleeping with prostitutes or injecting yourself with heroin or other needles that are being shared. So why can't we at least just pause this one vaccine on the first day of life? There was a very interesting exchange with Robert Kennedy Jr. in his confirmation hearings with Senator Cassidy, who's a doctor that brought up hepatitis B. And Rand Paul challenged him. Cassidy was worried that Bobby might affect the hepatitis B vaccine program. And Dr. Rand Paul said, well, you do know that this is a sexually transmitted disease. I don't see why a day-one-old baby should need this. Cassidy rightly said sometimes there's mothers with that are hepatitis B positive. It protects their baby. Dr. Rand Paul said, but we test every mother in America. We test their blood before they give birth. We know whether they're hepatitis B positive or not. So why would a mother that's negative have to give this to their baby?
I know the answer.
Senator Cassidy, who was trying to be diehard, admitted right there, all right, I don't think it should be mandatory if you are testing hepatitis B negative. Unfortunately, in California, where I was living for many years, I would get calls from parents, mothers, that were trying to refuse the hepatitis B vaccine in the hospital, and they were calling Child Protective Services and threatening to take their baby away for child abuse.
Before you answer, what I'm going to say is the choice and bringing CPS into it is absolutely... That's
totally
that's absurd. And it's that choice thing. But go ahead.
But the hepatitis B, not the vaccine, but the virus, is undetectable for the first 2 months after exposure. And I know that physician who what was his name? The one that was saying it's okay.
I don't.
There it was.
It wasn't Peter McCullough. Who was he talking about?
Rand Paul, but the other person.
Yeah.
Cassidy.
Yeah, I worked with Cassidy's wife when I was in Louisiana, and Cassidy should know that. He should know that a woman who's exposed to hepatitis B has about a 2-month, 6 weeks or so. She's carrying that virus, but it cannot be detected, and that's why they give it to newborns, is that they don't know that the mother has been whether she's been exposed or not. Now, when you get a upper class woman who has only had one sexual partner in her life and has never done intravenous drugs,
I don't know. You have to be high class for that. I think that.
Yeah, but
there are some non-high class people that do intravenous drugs.
But there's some high class people that shoot heroin too.
Yeah, exactly
right. Sure. I don't think they're class.
Nevertheless,
a lot of musicians have died that way.
Yeah, people. You can't really trust people, and you don't know whether they've been exposed or not. in that period of time.
Okay, all right.
So you
all right.
kind of have to.
Here's where we sway off a little bit.
All right.
I understand what you're saying, and you can't trust them. But no offense to you or anyone that steps into that role of telling, like, if you ask a person a question, have you had sex with anyone other than your partner? Have you used heroin? Have you used needles or any of that thing? And they say no, and it's their child. There shouldn't be any First of all, there should be informed consent, and they should know. They should hear that number of our first day aborted babies were 50% above other developed countries. And the only difference really
aborted mortality.
Huh?
Yeah. Not aborted, the mortality.
The mortality rate is dramatically higher than other
I'd like
countries.
to see the numbers.
Well, I mean, I think they're bringing it. That's where we're at. We're kind of at the tip of the spear here a little bit, so we're kind of outrunning our headlights. But again, if a child is born tomorrow, I think there should be informed consent. I think they should know the risk of these things. They should be able to talk about it with their doctor. And I understand there are going to be the heroin users. There's going to be whatever. But at the end of the day, that mother, it's still their child, and they have chosen to shoot up drugs. And so I don't think they really the Hep B might be the least thing that those children have to worry about in their life, based on everything else that
Hep B will kill you.
Oh yeah,
and if children who were exposed at birth to women with hepatitis B developed chronic hepatitis B, and they could, anyone that they had sexual intercourse or used needles with would be exposed to that. And unfortunately, but we have no proof. This guy's throwing numbers around. We have no proof that the reason that those 50% more babies die in the U.S. Is the vaccine.
Well, I think that's why they're calling for science.
There's no proof of that.
I don't know that.
That's because we don't have any tests.
I don't think they're testing
trials.
for it. That's the real problem for it.
They
don't care.
You can't test for it because there's a 6 to 9 weeks before the you can pick it up on a test.
He means the vaccine. I did a quick little grockination here, and it says it depends on the test. Because if you do a Hep B surface antigen, it could be 2 to 6 weeks, all the way out to 12 weeks.
Yep.
If you do a Hep B core antibody, 6 to 12 weeks. But if you do an HBV DNA test, they can figure that out in 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so again, we are talking about science, and we're talking about we're basically giving this vaccine to every baby to protect the one that has a crackhead or heroin shooting mother or some random accident. So if we're really talking about science, we need to really pay attention to, we have babies that are dying, the mortality rate for first day deaths are 50% higher. What do they have in common? What else could be causing that? I mean, it seems like we've been uninterested from a science perspective, and that's, to me, is the key here.
Well, that's my question. Have they done post-mortem tests on all of these kids and seen if the vaccine actually did something? See why they died, not just throwing numbers out there.
Yeah. Well, again, maybe they haven't done it in the past.
The United States does have a significantly higher amount of neonatal deaths than other countries do. So, I'm not saying that it's not correct. I'm just saying
you want to see it.
Yeah,
you want to see the science, and that's exactly right.
Why all these babies are dying on the first day.
100%.
And I don't believe that number.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it that high either.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
So I think this guy's a loop head.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, they're still concerned to have there.
Dale Bigtree, I think he's been on spot and a lot of other things. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
Now you're already gaslighting some guy who's trying to say that it's bad. Like we're just doing the same thing the other way. Like let's don't gaslight anybody.
He doesn't have to prove it. They have to prove that it's good. That's what science is. You have to prove that it's safer.
You have to prove that is the cause. There may be something else.
Vaccine makers have to prove that the vaccine is safe.
Okay. No,
I'm
talking about the death rate. He says
the number. The numbers are accurate. Yeah.
If 50% more than any other country, they ought to be out there, ringing the bells and figuring out what else is going on there. It's not necessarily the you can't immediately blame it on the vaccine.
Okay, all right. I'm going to press back. I'm going to press back on you on that.
Yeah.
They've said the same thing about the mRNA COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
So you're saying something kind of the same, that we all with 2 eyes and 2 ears looking around and seeing all these things happen. The only thing that really changed in that window of time.
Number one, I don't believe.
But they just canceled. They cancel you for saying it.
I don't believe that 50% more die in the United States. Show me the numbers on that. And look that up since you're over there with Grok. What's the number of neonatal deaths in the first 24 hours in the United States versus the United Kingdom or Sweden?
I don't have that. I have some VAERS data from 91 to 98. There were 18.
And I don't know if UK does
18
UK
what?
do Hep B on the first day.
Said from 91 to 98 there were 18 deaths.
Well,
neonatal deaths from the
vaccine.
Well, that's
from VAERS data.
And it's underreported. Yeah.
What do we say? VAERS is 10 times that, so 180.
Yeah.
180 in how much time?
7 years.
Okay. So if I was one of those 180,
yeah, I'm just telling you what information I have in front of me.
As opposed to,
and that was also 27 years ago.
And did any of those 180 did their mother? Wait a minute. Did any one of those 180 that passed away? Did their mothers have hepatitis B? Did they find out that they had hepatitis B in the after effect?
No, you got to find that.
So that's the way.
Yeah.
I mean, you could test them 6 months later and say, okay, we gave them this shot. They died on the thing. We can with confidence say this thing came from hepatitis B. And as it turns out, maybe only one woman out of the 180 did have hepatitis B. So it's just, you got to look at the numbers. And to me,
the numbers are this. Once the United States started vaccinating children at day one, the number of children with hepatitis B went down by 99%.
Yeah, but what percentage had them, and were those parents were they mothers with drug habits or that with sexual habits that got them there? So again, it's asking the question rather than just saying this is what we do for all babies. There should be because I'm pretty sure that I love the doctor that helped deliver our children. I don't think we were asked the question whether we wanted that thing whenever.
You just got it, yeah.
Yeah, you just got it. So again, it's just having the conversation, and then I can use my own brain. Me and my wife can have a conversation, and I can say, "Have you been doing any, any shooting up or anything?" It's
but you don't know,
Well, I mean, if your baby comes out and has hepatitis B, then you're going to start looking at your wife a little bit differently, probably.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily because there can be possibilities that she got stuck with a dirty needle. What if she was a nurse?
Oh, I mean,
got stuck with a dirty
absolutely
needle.
Accidents like that happen for sure. Hopefully, there's a protocol. If you're a nurse and you get stuck, that you would maybe have to have a hepatitis booster or something. I would assume
you have a hepatitis.
Probably get it testing right.
Get testing right away. But remember, if you get exposed on day one, it'll be up to 12 weeks.
Depends on the test.
Depending on the test.
It could be 1 to 2 weeks.
They typically don't do the DNA on that. They do the other ones.
So let's. I haven't seen. I think that I had this thing queued up for our last podcast, and there's a little bit of humor, and I don't even remember what the humor was, but I think we could lighten it up a little bit.
Sure.
Me and Dr. Roy, that was as frictious as we've gotten in a while, even though it wasn't very.
Yeah, I
frictious.
didn't call you an MF
yet. The day is not done.
Yeah.
I have goals here.
A master football player.
Yeah.
Something like that. Got me.
And I told him I was scared that Zuckerberg was listening. And then he laughed, and then I laughed. And then Alexa laughed, and then Siri laughed. And then our Tesla laughed. My husband asked me why I speak so softly in the house.
I will be the first one to tell you that if anything can be activated by a phrase, it's always listening.
Oh, it's for sure always listening. There's no doubt about it.
Always.
Yeah, so that is the ultimate, and Doc has a Faraday bag over that he carries with you. You carry with that with you all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I don't, that Faraday bag has failed him a couple times. I don't know if that's the same one, but we were in a podcast before and your phone rang or something. I forgot.
Yeah.
And it was still something.
So it's not 100%, that's for sure.
But hopefully keeps the prying ears from listening. But
you say hopefully, like what do we, I mean, I guess what we're doing right now, I guess if they listen to what we're doing right now and they want to come kick in the door, they might. But I mean, what are we really, like we're not, planning a heist or anything. I don't really care, to be honest. I prefer, and this is everybody's decision, but I prefer having the technology, the convenience of the technology over privacy.
I consider you one of the smartest people that I know. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's the most short-sighted thing that I've ever heard come from your mouth.
That I just told you that I would prefer the convenience of the electronics?
You can't have a secret conversation. You can't have a secret sexual encounter. You can't have what if something pisses you off and the cancel culture comes back and you said something off cuff and you said a name or a word that turns out 10 years later from now is now a bad word.
I'm telling you, I know that it's possible, and I don't care personally. Everybody has that decision they can make.
But does your daughter doesn't have a choice?
All technology.
Your daughter doesn't have a choice.
Yeah. I choose for her.
If you have if you have a boy and it's a teenage boy, how many real dumb things did you say and do whenever you were a kid? And do you want
great thing about the 90s? No one can come back and find it.
But I mean that doesn't slide forward very well, and all it does is make people not really be able to.
Well, so what I'm saying is, then you no longer have the convenience. If you want to get rid of that possibility, you no longer have the convenience. If you want to do that, that's fine. Apple's doing their best to try to keep everything on device.
So that's the key. The key is I'm okay kind of thinking about everything being recorded and being my personal assistant, but it needs to be blockchain and connected to me, not given to a corporation.
But I'm just telling you right now that I know it's happening, and and a lot of people will argue that it doesn't happen, but no, it happens. It's currently happening. Yeah. But I personally am okay with it.
Okay.
At this moment, I would. What I'm saying, I'm not okay with it. I prefer to have the convenience than to not. I prefer to be able to
choosing convenience over
privacy.
The risk.
Yes.
Over the risk.
Yes. And I know it exists. So I'm not saying, and it's not okay. I guess I shouldn't have said it's okay. It's not okay, but you either get the convenience or you don't. It's whichever you want to do currently. Now, as things progress, hopefully somebody will come up with a way, as you said, to protect it and to keep it on. Apple's doing their best to try to keep it on device. I think
that's the conversation. We have to demand it as much as possible. Like, as much as we can keep it in our own.
Then go with Apple.
I know,
but I'm just saying
done that.
But I mean, if you have any kind of Echo device, Alexa device,
I would love space. Elon's
SpaceX,
not space.
Tesla. I mean, it's either SpaceX or Tesla. What else does he have?
Not space. The satellite.
Oh, Starlink.
Yeah, Starlink. So to me, if the Starlink can be on its own protected network and it doesn't have crossover into everyone else getting access to it, and you're watching things. I mean, that to me would be the get more of a fortress. And if he had it, let's assume Elon's a good guy, and he really does want to keep everybody's information protected and whatever. I mean, the thing about his car is it's learning from the phone, from the thing that's attached to it, and it's tracking you everywhere you go. And I mean, he's doing it. So I'm not saying he's the best fit for it, unless you're a person like, I want absolute privacy. I don't want the convenience of everything. Or I can flip a switch and say, okay, now I want the convenience, right? So I want the thing, give me the thing, and then I'm going to switch it back off. That to me would be like, if you could happen in windows of time. Let's say we're sitting in this room here, and we want to create a virtual think tank, and we want to act like there's 10 other doctors and journalists and science around us, and we want to have a robust conversation. We would want it listening to us, and we would want it interacting with us and chiming in those windows where it would improve the conversation. But whenever I'm not doing it, I don't want it listening and manipulating me and my wife and my kids into the future. Because that's what it is. It creates a weapon. If you've ever had a heated conversation with your wife that wasn't even physical, and things can come back on you that you don't even really think about, and that's just scary. It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
On other parts of the world,
that's the only thing he and I have ever really disagreed on. I think.
I don't think we disagree. I think we agree on it. I think you're
just okay with it.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bitcoin's at 111 now. So
wow.
The Doc's going to buy us all jets now.
Man, he might be retired by the end of the day. Holy moly! Oh, did it? My thing's not keeping.
It dropped a little bit. It was 111 about an hour ago.
Okay, 109,973 now.
It's listed on mine at 110.
Yeah, I've been trying to talk my dad. You're a unique person, Dr. Roy, and you're a little over 70, maybe. Whatever. You don't have to tell
75.
Most people that are a little older can't consider Bitcoin. It's like this goes like it can't. It's not in your hand. It's too much technology. They don't understand it. And like I'm trying to talk to my dad. Because he was, whenever the Newsmax stock dropped, they did an IPO or whatever it was, and he wanted to take $40,000 and just put it on the stock. And like for the first week or so, he was just like, "Oh man, look how much money I would have made." And then like 2 days later, it just went boom. The tank dropped out of it. And I think he still would have made a little bit of money.
You know how much I bought this Bitcoin at?
Which the original? Oh, do you just
Bitcoin that
Are you not buying now? You just bought some?
No, I'm not. I'm not buying anymore. I can't afford it anymore.
You can get it in fractions.
Sure, you can. If it goes up by 100%, you can afford it all every day, all the day.
That's right. But I bought it when it was $16,000.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
For each, and now it's 110.
Okay.
So I'm just happy.
Is this a good time to talk about a loan?
We need a new computer.
We do need a computer. Why don't you sell it and make some money and then?
No.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Okay, so we're 7:30. We're in about an hour and a half.
I'm going to live until I'm 100, and so I'm going to need money for the nursing home.
That's what you have to think if you're going to pull Social Security out, man.
Yeah.
Social Security. I don't think it's going to exist when I get there, but.
Well, I don't know.
Well, if the Doge does what it needs to do, then maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I still think
we've been hearing that same thing for 30 years.
I still think it would be better if everybody was mandated to use whatever the deduction. Let's say it's 10% of your income or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it has to be pulled out and put into an investment for yourself. I think that would be a better way to do it. But the problem,
I like that. The problem is
everybody else currently on it would be screwed.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that a lot of people with Social Security are not getting hardly enough money to live on.
Right.
So it's unfortunate in those cases, and if somebody becomes 100% disabled, that's going to kick in, and they're going to get a significant amount of money on that, and it's coming out of your pocket.
Well, I mean, I didn't come here prepared to talk about Social Security, and what a kind of a scam it is.
Total scam.
Completely a scam. The thing about it is, if you're putting in a Social Security now, that should be going somewhere. And to me, if we're going to buy Bitcoin, just put it in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Then make that our backup currency. Put Social Security money into Bitcoin and let it go.
Let it go.
But the problem is more is going out than it's coming in currently. That's why I think that we should all
because of baby boomers.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think
because of.
So I don't know what the percentage is. You think it's 10, maybe 8% of an income goes to Social Security? I don't really know how much of the almost 30%, and I guess it depends on your tax bracket and everything. So I guess I'm getting kind of out of the weeds here. Let's just say 10%. If I had investments that got bought into every single couple weeks or every month, 10% of my income, by the time I got to retirement age, I would. Yeah.
If it was in the stock market, you'd be multimillionaire.
Easy. Easy.
Yeah. I'm just saying. So I think that might be a better way to do it. Or there's got to be other better ways to do it.
The thing about it is the government.
It's a scam.
The government doesn't think that people are smart enough to do that.
No, I'm not saying
they'll go out and buy a new.
No, it should be forced. What he's saying, he's not saying it's a bad concept to force basically take it and put it into something. What I think he's saying is they're not putting it into something; they're just paying the next person.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's not building any wealth. It's just
the original idea was that it would be there to build wealth,
right?
To build upon itself,
right.
To have more money there than you were actually originally going to put in. Like there would be more money there than what I actually put in. It was the concept.
Yeah. It's a Ponzi scheme,
but it's not. It's not that way. I don't even know how we got on Social Security. Sorry.
We were talking about Bitcoin.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I brought it.
Yeah.
I brought it up. It would be, if you're going to say Bitcoin's going to be a backup currency for the United States, it might be a good time to remake the Social Security Administration and how we fund that and where it's going, and put a pile of money.
The downside of Bitcoin is that there is a set number of coins that can be.
There's a finite amount of coins. Yep.
It's
around
21 million.
21 million.
21 million.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it was.
So there will be some kind of a inflation.
Oh yeah.
Once whatever.
Well, that's why it's going higher now, is because they're like 19 million point three available, and there are only 21 million that can be purchased.
Yeah, there was a really. I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday when I was in the sauna. Maybe that was this morning. They were talking about that and the money printing. You know, the one guy was like totally anti money printing. But at some point, kind of what you're saying is legitimate. Once you've dispersed the 21 million, and they just keep getting more expensive, then I need to really dig into this, because kind of the way I see it is prices potentially could go down on things. You would like to have to pay less Bitcoin for something, versus kind of the inverse. You know what I mean? So it's like it would be reverse inflation for you. Like if you had Bitcoin, you could pay Bitcoin. Someone wanted to accept it, you could give them whatever, and it might be $100 thing, and it might only cost you a fraction of that, as according to Bitcoin, because they trust that Bitcoin more than they trust the fiat currency that's being inflated and being printed. So every time your dollar is taxed, it's sent out. How long does your dollar bill last in your pocket after you're taxed on it? It gets taxed out of circulation, and Bitcoin doesn't do that. I mean, so it's an interesting concept. But like have a Bitcoin,
if it moves with inflation,
be,
like if it moves with inflation, which it should, then you're better off than like people who bury a can of money out in the backyard is just losing money, because that's going to constantly be worth less and less, even though it's still $1, but it's going to be worth less.
Yeah,
and
the
less.
only reason to do that is to have some cash on hand if you do have to bug out. What if all the ATMs are blown out?
If we lose power, Bitcoin's going to be a problem too.
Yeah, I mean, if we lose the internet or transaction capabilities, might be a little bit.
That's where you need guns and ammo and
bullets. I think I still just going to go back to
bullets is the ultimate neutralizer.
And currency. Yeah. I could see that being.
Have you seen my arsenal? I've got thousands of bullets.
I just can't wait until they bust into the gold reserve and see if the gold's still there.
That went quiet.
I think there's going to be a dead mouse.
There's a problem. In Houston, we have a problem there.
Yeah.
I think
I would really love if they would live stream it, but they won't. But like just open like some vault. Yeah, just like a moth flies out or something.
I almost wonder if Trump was saber rattling there.
Yeah.
And trying to push some buttons to get some action and something else, because otherwise you'd have he would have gone in and there'd been him walking in with all the big beautiful gold.
The last time that was done is in the 1970s, and they only opened one vault.
When did we get off the gold standard?
Oh, that was
FDR, wasn't it? Was it FDR?
FDR.
The 60s,
when
50s?
they created the Federal Reserve. When the Federal Reserve was created.
Yeah, it was 1935.
Yeah,
was it that far back?
Look at this rocket, dude.
He went. Roosevelt went. They took the money away from people. If people had gold coins, they took that away from them and gave them paper for that.
Yeah, that was why there wasn't a revolution right then.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. Travis was getting the answer.
I'm looking here.
I would, we can have a little.
So 33, they prohibited private gold ownership and required citizens to turn in gold coins and bullion for paper currency.
33?
That was 33. But it was in 71 that the suspension of the dollar's convertibility into gold. So the gold standard actually left in 71. Yeah. And that's what I was talking about, is when did the gold standard leave? Like, when were we no longer on the gold standard? And it was 71. And I was thinking it was probably right around the time they did the... they opened the vault, like you were saying, you know, that it was probably, and so you said
they only opened one of the 25 or however many vaults they had, and they said, "Look at all this gold."
Yeah, I think my thing on the Bitcoin is there could be a Bitcoin B. If it gets where that's crazy, and then you got think about like $100 bill, or
they already
you can already buy in fractions.
I know, but if it gets if there's all the 21 sold, I'm just saying there is a cap. I think it seems like if everybody in the world is on it, I don't know how that equals out. How does that equal out?
Well,
it's worth. So you've got 21 million coins, but the coin's not worth $1. Right. No. I'm just saying a coin. So at one point, Doc's coin was worth $16,000.
Yeah.
Now it's worth $111,000. So even though the amount of coins he had didn't change, the value of that coin changed.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's what could happen. Only 21 million coins are around, but instead of being worth 111 million, they'll be worth, or 111,000, excuse me, they'll be worth $1 million. I don't know.
Well,
they could be worth a substantial
amount. I think there
amount.
are going to be other things. You mentioned Bitcoin B. Well, the guy who invented Bitcoin is...
they don't know who it is.
They don't know who it is.
No.
But anyhow, there are a lot of other valuable coins.
Yeah.
That
a lot of people call them shit coins.
Yeah.
No, they're called altcoins, and they're not all shit. I'm making money on like 5 or 6 of them.
Making money on them and then being long lasting is another thing. So that's the trick.
Well, true.
I'm talking just Bitcoin purists are the ones that call them shit coins. I don't. That's not my terminology.
You can take these altcoins and stake them, and you'll get like 3% back or 5%. I've got some that are as high as 6.5% or even 15% that I'm getting back more coins on.
Nice. Very cool. Well, I got an off-topic clip here. I don't know what time. Right.
Off our topic or off the original
completely
topic? Because
off topic.
we totally got off the original topic a long time ago.
It's a tyranny thing. It's coming back to energy. As we're talking about, we've been talking about Centerpoint here locally, and just the push towards non-fossil fuel.
Wait, I think does this come from one of my favorite shows?
Landman.
Yeah, I love this rant.
So we haven't showed this one. I think to anyone that is pushing hard for.
This was a good show. I can't wait for season 2.
Yeah, and I can't wait for they've announced the season 2.
Oh yeah, there's going to be one of it. It's not dropped.
And I think she's in it and he's in it. Yeah. So anyone that's pushing we got to go green, we got to do whatever. My big thing with green, obviously I've said it a bunch of times, is I don't want to be beholden to China. So if Trump can get all the manufacturing that we need to create wind and solar, then we can have an actual conversation. If we have the capability to do it, then we can talk about whether it's smart to do it or not.
Agreed.
We don't have the access to do that. So to me, this kind of frames that whole conversation.
Thorium is coming in because it's a whole lot safer and a whole lot easier to use than uranium for making powers. So I don't know whether they have any thorium setups anywhere in the world yet, but everybody's talking about using thorium because it's a whole lot easier than uranium to deal with.
Well, they're saying that also asteroid mining, we could probably have more rare earth minerals.
That's going to be a couple of 100 years.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll see.
Maybe not in our lifetime, but
maybe not.
It could be done.
Well, so that's the thing. We got to get. Do we have enough fossil fuel to get through our lifetime? That's the thing. That's the thing we've always said. It's like, and they're saying there's more and more fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels isn't actually a depleted. It's a renewable. It could possibly be a renewable resource.
I think it's all a scam
from the core. I don't know. I haven't done enough research on it. But
energy is one of those things that it's at the core of power. If you control the power, if you have the most power, you're going to have the most money.
Oh, true.
And you're going to have control over the world. To me, we're not being told the truth. What are the odds we're being told the truth?
Energy and food. Well, we are. We weren't told it 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Nothing is a conspiracy anymore.
All right, play this. I love this clip.
Mr. Oilman, tell me how the wind is bad for the environment.
Do you have any idea how much diesel we have to burn to mix that much concrete?
That's how they get away with
steel
doing it.
And haul this shit out here. and put it together with a 450-foot crane, you want to guess how much oil it takes to lubricate that fucking thing or winterize it? And its 20-year lifespan, it won't offset the carbon footprint of making it. And never mind the fact that if the whole world decided to go electric tomorrow, we don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the cities. It'd take 30 years if we started tomorrow. And unfortunately for your grandkids, we have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours. It's in tennis rackets, lipstick, and refrigerators, and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic. Your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap, fucking hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Every fucking thing. And you know what the kicker is? We're going to run out of it before we find its replacement.
It's the thing that's gonna kill us all. As a species.
No, the thing that's going to kill us all is running out before we find an alternative.
Please, Miss.
Okay, so the moral of that is, to me,
a lot of F-bombs.
If we run out
Sorry about that.
If we run out of oil, these things aren't going to work. And you're not going to be able to create the solar panels. So it's kind of a moot point where you're spending a lot more to create them, and solar panels only have a certain life.
I think
these things only have a certain
solar will be the better way to go than wind. I think solar will be the
wind
better
is
way.
completely
But we
inefficient.
need to have them, like you said, we need to not be dependent on other people for it, and we currently are.
I actually think
Elon was working. Elon was, and I haven't seen much. I need to do a little digging on this. Elon was working on an amazing idea, which were solar shingles.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen.
He bought Solar City whenever.
I haven't seen anything develop from that
when
in
he
the past
sold, when
10
he sold
years
PayPal,
or 15
he
years,
sold,
20 years, whatever.
Sold PayPal. He started Tesla. He started SpaceX, and he bought Solar City. And Solar City basically was the base technology that he turned into the battery tech for Tesla. But at that same time, he's like, we're going to be able to change your roof out. It's going to cost you the same amount of a standard roof, and your house will be off grid. That was the promise. That was the original thing he said. I mean, it was kind of.
It doesn't even need to cost. It could cost double a normal roof for me, depending on how its durability and longevity is, and I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
But
you save a $500 a month utility bill, or $700 or $1,000, depending on where you're at.
But I just haven't seen anything. They acted like that it would weather the, no pun intended, but it would weather the storms. You know, it would weather hail and things, and even if something did happen, they would be independently replaceable.
If I were ever to get him in a corner spot, that would be one of the top 10 questions I would ask.
That was a great idea, but
giving
it just never
the individual autonomy to not be controlled by centralized energy. It's a decentralized power. You take it wherever you want to go. My buddy has the ability. He can create a portable grid. He can carry behind his truck on a trailer, and it can basically give you everything that you need. I mean, it's not a super output, but it's enough.
Well, he's got like a solar panel array on the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, he's just one of those industrious guys that likes building stuff, and he doesn't like paying Centerpoint anything. Anyway, so I thought that was really interesting. We are still struggling. We're getting ready to go into the summertime here, and our there's a lot of news going around the city of Evansville and the state about what energy prices are going to be, and we're still pushing green. I think even though Trump put a halt to the Green New Deal, I think it's been kind of flattened, but it seems like now the states are picking it up and they're still running with it. I don't know where Braun's at.
I don't know what the hell they think that they can do. I mean, I know we're talking about it right now, and maybe not everybody sees what we see, but it costs more. It takes just as anyway. I'm beating a dead horse.
No, you're not beating a dead horse, because most people don't talk about it. Most people don't think about it. They think, well, that's the government thing or energy companies. That's just on them to do it. No, that's the questions. That's what the media should be doing. That's why we are doing what we're doing, because the questions aren't brought to the right people. The right people aren't held accountable. There's, the NGOs, the private companies that are working alongside state governments that have sweet deals on the backside. Those people aren't working for free,
and when we do this, that alternative, I mean, like you've said many times, and I've said as well, if we're beholden to another country and they want to go to war with us, they're just going to shut down that line. We're no longer going to be able to get the panels or the material or whatever it might be.
100%.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and that's I don't know. I haven't stayed up on the.
That's where I was hoping Elon would do something with it, and he would manufacture it in the U.S., and then we'd be good to go.
Well, the thing is, he couldn't manufacture it in the U.S. because we don't have the materials.
Well, we have a lot of it, but then some of the things, that's a lot of why Trump was talking about going after Greenland.
Yeah.
Was material. There's material deposits of certain things over there that we don't have here. Yeah. And I don't necessarily need to go into what they are, but that was one of the big reasons why he really wanted to try to work out. And he did work out. Who did he work out a resource deal with recently? He worked out a resource deal with was it Saudi Arabia?
It was Ukraine.
Oh, Ukraine. Yeah, that's right. And that whole thing's another. Maybe we should do a podcast in a week or 2 or 3 about Ukraine, Zelensky, and how that whole thing is not anywhere close to what the propaganda is that we're being told.
Yeah, I kind of left that story because I'm not going to say I'm uninterested, but to me it's not nearly as important. The fact that people aren't talking about going to war with Russia and they're not on the news every night, to me, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay.
Because I feel it was the saber rattling and they were working us towards a war with Russia. That all got deflated, and then guess what came up? Oh, Iran. Iran really is the problem. They're the ones that we're going to have this big fight with, or Israel and Gaza. I mean, I'm just it's peace. What did they say? Peace to power, or I forgot how he says. His new statement. Trump's new statement is peace first. It's not war and peace. It's peace before war, and he's very much.
That's another thing. The left act like he's a warmonger. He's the least. He's had the least wars, and he's trying to keep. Anyway,
they've openly become the warmongers.
Yeah,
and that's part of the deal.
Yep.
Dr. Roy's looking at my son's information over there.
Yeah,
I think we've come to a fairly natural ending spot here. Let's try to figure out the technology and get I'm
gonna do some homework on the Tesla shingles or the
yeah. Let's do that.
I want to see what's going on.
We can do that
there.
next.
I'm not saying we have to. I'll look into it, but that doesn't have to be the whole central idea of our next podcast. But.
No, I mean I'm totally interested in it. I want to become autonomous. I mean, I would love to have the ability to not rely on center point. Same thing with the water. I build a house out in the county. I'm going to have a well as fast as I can drill it. You can be assured of that.
The only problem with that was I had wells when I lived in Montana, and we had a big snowstorm, and all the snow melted, and it flushed into my wells and contaminated it with E. coli, so that I had to put in something else. I had to put in like ultraviolet lights to kill all the germs in it. So it was a good 1,000, 1,500 that I had to put in there to make those wells usable.
That's about 5 months of water.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what the water bills would be. That's a half year maybe.
If I had to do that, I lived out in the county on a farm for most of 25 years and never had an issue. Had the best tasting drinking water I've ever had in my life.
Well, my problem was
it was a deep well. My grandfather was a well digger.
I was downhill from a dairy farm.
Oh,
and all the poop came down.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, and it also varies. My grandfather, I've talked about him being a Culligan man for a long time, and places like Du Bois County, like Jasper, they have amazing water up there. And it's because there's a lake source up there they get a lot of their water from. But he couldn't really sell Culligan systems up there because their parts per million were so low. Mm-hmm. Now you get Perry County or Spencer County closer to the river. Mm-hmm. Much worse, much worse. Sure. Even with wells, like not just, I mean, your city, your tap water, yes, but I mean, even with wells, your well water varies based on like ground particulates and stuff in the sun. So it really depends on where you are, whether or not that water is going to be.
Well, and hopefully MAGA or Maha, can clean up our ground supply and make it all a little bit safer.
That'd be nice.
So it's just one less thing we have to pay the man for.
Yep.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks to everyone out there. Dr. Roy is selling ivermectin to help fund the show. If you need some ivermectin, that's the reason I want to have Kristen and her husband on, is because she's treated herself with ivermectin, I believe.
Yeah.
She's got a really good story to tell. And I've got a whole series of clips and content talking about ivermectin usage. And Dr. Roy is only selling it for the treatment of COVID because he has experience with that. But there's a lot of rapid coming information about cancer treatments and things that people should do their own diligence.
Now, if they want to buy ivermectin from me and use it for their cancers, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, and we can share clips with them and
Sure.
give them resources and doctors about here's who's talking about it. There's a lot of really good information out there, and with the damage that's been done with COVID and the vaccines, and the turbo cancers that are going around, there's just too many good stories out there that people should be paying attention to, and the media is just not doing a good. Media is not covering it at all.
No.
So I mean, that's another real problem I have. But anyway, thanks to all. You can get a hold of Dr. Roy on Twitter at Air Rescue Doc. I'm at Chad Schmidt at Twitter. If you know me, send me a message. Love you all.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Nighty night.